Government overreach means to do more than your authority allows. It is the conduct that exceeds the establishment's limit in a form dealing with some form of government. A lot of states in the U.S. are threatening the country to go independent so they won't feel overreached by the government. The significance of government overreach is that the states in the U.S. and citizens of the country feel that their privacy is being invaded. The government is overstepping their powers in defense to, quote-unquote, protect the country from terrorists and harms from the outside.
Some people may say that governmental control is good, however, some think that it can be terrible for society and can lead to chaos. It is a good thing for a government to be looking out for the citizens and protecting the country, but only to a certain extent. When the government overreaches, it then takes into account the invasion of privacy for the citizens in the country.
Better security. The Patriot Act was enacted to try and ensure the safety of Americans and their privacy. Officials that have the power to monitor certain individuals that they think is a risk to the United States. This was enacted after the 9/11 terrorist attack. This article mentions how devastating the 9/11 attack was and further could prevent by extra security that was possible in the Patriot Act. They talk about how the U.S. should be disappointed in themselves for letting someone hijack these planes and having control of the situation where it could easily have been prevented with extra security. This hints how American in the country grows weak and vulnerable, and that the 9/11 was a wake-up call to tighten the security for the better of the country.
According to government regulation, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, published by the Federalist Society and Regulatory Transcript Project, government overreach is beneficial and even enhances societal well-being. It states that the goal of regulation is to enhance, not undermine, societal well-being. Regulatory agencies should consider more important trade-offs in design regulations. The goal of regulation is to enhance, not undermine, societal well-being. Regulatory agencies can also consider important trade-offs and design regulations to do more good than harm. This shows that even though some people may say governmental control leads to worsening of society, it actually can enhance the well-being.
The first source talked about combining law enforcement and government jobs in order to pay less money but have the same level of enforcement on the public. The author is clearly pro-government control because even though they are losing money to fund jobs, they are still finding a way to combine jobs in order to keep the same level of government control they had before.
Governmental control is very important when dealing with large nations. Since there is so much going on in our world today, good and bad, the government needs to be able to have control of the bad things in the world. Without any control over large nations, it would lead to chaos and people not being able to be restrained and kept under authority.
In a differing opinion, the country has taken the government overreach too seriously, and the people are starting to feel like their privacy is being invaded and abused by the government. Since the country is trying to look out for the citizens by preventing any attacks, they feel like the country has invaded the territory it should stay in, and taking advantage of their power to spy on American citizens and take this knowledge. After the 9/11 attacks, the U.S. enacted the Patriot Act, but this act led to the violations upon the civil liberties induced by the intelligence agencies in the U.S. government. This article heavily emphasizes how the Patriot Act is violating our rights as individuals, says how it was unconstitutional, and the whole section is called a criticism in the Patriot Act.
Governmental control can lead to more issues than just controlling the people. It leads to rebellion and chaos. On an article called Protests Accuse Governors of Overreach, constitutional experts say states are acting legally, published by the Louisville Journal. It talks about the protests at the city and state capitals around the country. There were sign-touting, horn-blowing activists ignoring governors. In this article, it also says that governors are getting pushback from those who say their constitutional rights are being denied, to the point that threats have been made against the life of Kentucky's governor. This shows how much hate the government can get from controlling people to the point where they aren't allowed to leave their homes, just like in COVID, and it made people crazy.
People who are anti-government are taking over Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. Protesters are demanding the president be removed from the capital. The author is explaining that the people of Ukraine have a group that is anti-government and attempting to take over the capital.
Some people do not want governmental control because of the invasion of privacy. There are many people that are against the government having control over them, so they rebel and cause more problems, doing more harm than good. That's good.
The government overreach problem has shown up in the economic evasion of our country. The International Revenue Service, known as the IRS, knows already how much you make, but now they would like to know how much you're spending the money you make. The Washington Democrats are attempting to fund part of the reckless tax and spending through a new proposal.
Since COVID has emerged in the world, it's been a long-going battle to figure out if the government should have this much power in deciding whether the citizens should get a vaccine for COVID or not. Some argue that they don't believe the science, while others believe that the government is taking advantage of COVID to track their citizens more directly. Either way, majority of people believe that there is a bigger meaning behind COVID.
As the years go on and the government continues to lock down and control more and more, it could end up with people starting to rebel and some type of new government emerge from this. If we are not careful about it now, then we will regret it in the future when it's too late to stop it. There's a huge impact of this type of overreach that may not be seen at the moment, but in the future when our privacy is at stake.
Overall, we think that governmental control can be good as long as it's managed correctly. You don't want to live somewhere where there is no control or rules. However, living underneath complete control is bad and can also lead to chaos. But in moderation, governmental control is good and beneficial to society to a certain extent.